I woke up to a miracle today. Triggers stay as I find my way. No judgment to lead astray. In this peaceful state I'll stay.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us for this latest exploration. We are moving pretty quickly now through these final lessons of the workbook.
And it feels like the focus is sharpened, hasn't it?
It really has. We're shifting beyond just reading the concepts, and we're being asked to really engage in the immediate application of these teachings.
Yeah, the job isn't just to understand the ideas anymore.
Right. It's to make a deliberate, conscious choice about how we use our perception, in every single moment of our daily lives.
That's exactly it. And today, we're turning our attention to Lesson 335. If you have ever had that feeling, that really frustrating sense that your own peace is held hostage by the outside world, this lesson is specifically for you. It offers a way out, a really profound and instantaneous way out of that trap.
It hands the power right back to you.
Entirely back to the individual mind.
And as we go through this, we do encourage you to interact with us. You can reach us at ACIM at theworldharmonyproject.org.
Our social media handles are at the World Harmony Project on both TikTok and YouTube.
And of course, you can always leave comments on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We love hearing from you.
So to start this exploration, let's turn to the lesson itself, Lesson 335.
Lesson 335, I choose to see my brother's sinlessness. Forgiveness is a choice. I never see my brother as he is, for that is far beyond perception. What I see in him is merely what I wish to see, because it stands for what I want to be the truth. It is to this alone that I respond, however much I seem to be impelled by outside happenings. I choose to see what I would look upon, and this I see, and only this. My brother's sinlessness shows me that I would look upon my own, and I will see it, having chosen to behold my brother in its holy light.
What could restore your memory to me, except to see my brother's sinlessness? His holiness reminds me that he was created one with me and like myself. In him I find myself, and in your son I find the memory of you as well.
Okay, we have to just stop right there at that very first sentence. It sounds so simple, but that statement is revolutionary. It strips away all the passivity we usually associate with forgiveness.
Because, in conventional thought, forgiveness is almost always treated like a passive conclusion.
It's something that happens after the event.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You wait for the damage to be done, you wait for an apology, or you just wait for enough time to pass so you're not so angry anymore.
And then, maybe, you consider forgiving.
It's post-event, it's conditional, it's totally dependent on what happens outside of you.
And this teaching just blows that whole model up. It defines forgiveness not as a consequence, but as a proactive selection.
A choice you make before you even interpret what seems to be happening in front of you.
And that's the whole key to transferring the power, isn't it?
It is. If I have to wait for you to behave better before I can feel at peace, well, I've just made you the director of my emotional state.
You've willingly entered a hostage scenario.
100%. And this lesson says, no, the power is entirely with you, with the viewer. The external stuff is not the determining factor for your inner peace.
This shift is supported by this huge observation about reality that really challenges everything we assume about objective truth.
I never see my brother as he is.
For that is far beyond perception.
And that's a huge metaphysical statement. It's suggesting that the true reality of another person, their holiness, their connection to God.
It's not something you can see with your physical senses.
No. Or even grasp with the ego's intellect. It's far beyond perception.
So if we can't perceive the truth of our brother, then what? What are we actually perceiving?
Well, our physical eyes, they register light and color and motion, right? The form.
But the mind instantly jumps in.
Instantly. And applies the story, the context, the history, all the judgment.
So our mind isn't just a neutral camera recording fact.
It's constantly showing our own internal film reel, all our old grievances and fears, and just projecting it onto the world.
We're always seeing our own interpretation then, our own desire just laid over the person standing in front of us.
Which immediately brings us into the territory of ego resistance.
Yeah.
Because the lesson then says, what I see in him is merely what I wish to see.
Right, and that's where the logical mind just rebels. Why on earth Would I wish to see my friend as irresponsible? Or my boss as unfair?
Or a stranger is cruel. It seems totally counterintuitive if what you want is a peaceful life.
Exactly.
But this is precisely where the ego's hidden motives are. The ego's number one job is to maintain the identity of separation.
And for separation to exist, you need comparison. You need contrast.
You do. If I'm going to define myself as the good guy or the innocent victim,
Then you absolutely need a bad guy or a culprit to stand in contrast to you.
so the perception of sin in someone else, it's not some unhappy accident.
No, it's a carefully crafted psychological tool. It's designed to secure a specific identity for ourselves.
It is. I define you as flawed, as lazy, or as angry, and by doing that, I instantly elevate myself. I'm now on secure, superior ground.
So it's a trade.
It's a trade, yes.
Yeah.
A very costly one. You trade away your brother's actual innocence, the truth of who he is, for your own shaky sense of moral superiority.
And the lesson asks us to see the cost of that trade.
The cost is our own peace. Because if I decide sin is real in him, then it must be real in the universe.
And if it's real in the universe,
Then it must be real in me too.
the shift in perception it's asking for is just monumental. We're moving from this reactive stance of, I'm just a victim of your bad behavior.
Right. The it's not my fault
Yeah,
stance.
to a much more creative one, which is I am actively choosing the meaning, the content, and the truth of what I am looking at.
Which brings us to that great metaphor.
The thermometer and the thermostat.
The thermometer is totally passive. It just reflects the temperature in the room.
So if the environment is tense, if people are angry or stressed,
The ego acts like that thermometer.
Yeah.
It just mirrors the chaos. It gets defensive, tense, angry itself. It thinks it's just accurately reporting on reality.
but the thermostat,
The thermostat doesn't report the temperature. It sets the temperature. It dictates the environment.
so if you make that proactive choice for sinlessness, you're being the thermostat.
Yes. You are bringing your view of peace into the interaction. You maintain your internal temperature no matter what external chaos seems to be happening.
Okay, but this is where the theory gets a little sticky, right?
Mhm.
For anyone listening, the question has to be, how can I be the thermostat when what's happening outside feels so compellingly real?
The shouting, the insults.
The palpable injustice. These feel like facts, not projections. How do we apply this thermostat mindset when the ego is just screaming that the room is on fire?
We have to remember the difference between form and content. Let's use the airport. The flight's delayed. The gate agent is stressed.
And the person next to you is screaming into their phone about how incompetent the airline is.
Okay, the form of that event is verifiable. There's the sound of yelling, the sight of a person in distress, the delay on the board.
And the thermometer mind immediately interprets that form. It concludes that passenger is a jerk, rude and entitled.
And that interpretation automatically creates a rush of tightness and anger and judgment inside the person watching.
You walk away feeling worse, convinced the world is just a terrible place full of selfish people.
But the thermostat mind sees that the interpretation is a choice. If I choose to apply the lesson, I see the form, the yelling, but then I deliberately choose the content underneath it.
You choose to see a call for love instead of an attack.
Right.
So just to be clear, we are not denying the yelling is happening.
No, that's a crucial distinction. We're not saying, I'm going to pretend loud noises aren't happening.
What we are denying is that the yelling,
It has the power to define the ultimate reality of that person, or my ability to stay peaceful inside.
the challenge is to see the temporary ego that's on display, while at the same time holding the perception of the eternal, sinless Son of God that lies just beneath that panic.
Yes. The sinlessness is the truth, and we choose to respond only to the truth.
Let's apply this to another common trigger for judgment. Perceived incompetence. Say you hire someone, a contractor, and they do shoddy work. They waste your time, your money.
Oh, the immediate ego response is character assassination. They're lazy, they're criminals, they just don't care.
We want to see them that way.
Because that story instantly justifies our anger. It justifies our self-pity and our feeling of being the righteous victim dealing with chaos. It solidifies our identity as the competent one.
But the teaching brings us back to that core idea of the whole system. Nothing real can be threatened.
Right. If we truly believe our brother was created by God, perfect and whole, which is what sinlessness means, then his mistakes,
His poor work ethic, his lapse in judgment.
none of that can possibly threaten his true, unchangeable reality.
And if we insist on seeing him as fundamentally flawed or sinful,
We are making a huge subconscious theological statement that God's creation can be corrupted.
and if creation can be corrupted, sin must be real.
If sin is real, the separation is real. And if that's true, then I must be flawed too, because we were created as one.
Every judgment I cast on someone else is actually the definition I'm applying to myself.
We think judging keeps us safe, but we're actually just building the walls of our own prison of guilt. Judgment is entirely self-damaging.
When you put it like that, the stakes are just immense. This isn't just about manners, it's about our concept of reality.
Imagine the relief, though, if we fully accepted sinlessness as the only reality, that constant, exhausting defensive posture we carry around.
It would just drop away.
It would. Think about walking into a charged situation, like a holiday dinner, where you know a certain relative is going to say something polarizing.
Oh, yeah. The default setting is to put on your armor.
You walk in, armed and waiting, scanning the room, waiting for them to say the wrong thing so you can launch your internal counter-argument.
Or at least just feel morally superior to them. And that armor is so heavy to carry through a 3-hour meal.
But if you choose sinlessness, you walk in looking for the light, not the shadow. You're not just listening to their polarizing words.
You're listening for the fear behind the words, the confusion, the spiritual panic that makes them say those things.
You're looking for the content, not just the form. And suddenly, that dinner is not a battlefield anymore.
Because you unilaterally refuse to bring a weapon into the room.
And you feel fundamentally safe because you've chosen not to define the person across the table as a threat to who you are.
That feeling of self-safety is so key because the ego fights this idea so intensely.
Oh, furiously. The ego needs separation. It needs that me versus you narrative to even exist.
If I see you as sinless, that gap vanishes. We're seen as the same.
And the ego perceives that sameness as its own death.
And it will try to convince us that seeing sinlessness is actually a form of weakness.
Yes, that people will just walk all over you, which is where we have to be so rigorous about separating form from content.
Okay, so a friend cancels plans last minute, disrespects your time. The behavior is the form.
And my ego screams, "You're being disrespected."
It insists that holding the grievance is how you prove your own value, which is just a massive internal trap.
But grievance is only there to prove the grievance holder's identity. But forgiveness, in this lesson, is an internal decision.
It is to this alone that I respond.
Meaning, I respond to my desire to see the truth of holiness, not to the error in the behavior. I'm choosing my own sanity.
Forgiveness is not saying the behavior was okay.
Forgiveness is saying that behavior, while maybe inconvenient or even painful in the world of form, has absolutely no power to change or define the divine, sinless reality of the person who did it.
Nor does it have the power to define my own internal peace.
It's the ultimate act of self-maintenance. It's how we let ourselves out of the mental prison of constant judgment.
We're being asked to suspend our trust in the first report from our physical senses, especially when that report shows us guilt or attack.
Which brings us back to the roles we cast people in. We're all scriptwriters.
We are. You are the ungrateful child. You are the negligent colleague. You are the unreliable friend.
And all those roles require sin to be real for them to be valid.
But when we stop writing those confining, guilt-based scripts for other people,
we finally make room for the truth of their being, their sinlessness. And just as important, it makes room for the truth of our being in that relationship too.
the freedom this lesson offers is so simple. If you apply the choice of sinlessness, that emotional charge vanishes.
The form remains.
But the attached judgment, that's gone. It's the difference between operating out of fear, which sees judgment everywhere, and operating out of safety, which knows nothing real can be threatened.
And this leads to maybe the final hurdle, which is a big one. How does this challenge our investment in our own personal stories?
The narrative identities we cherish. I had a hard childhood. I rose above adversity.
Or my ex betrayed me and ruined my finances.
Those stories are the foundation of who we think we are now, and they absolutely require a defined sinner, a clear culprit.
But if you choose to see that ex-partner or that parent as a child of God who made errors but remains whole and innocent underneath,
Then your story of being the victim, the one who suffered unfairly, it just structurally falls apart.
and that feels like a real terrifying death to the ego.
I lose my identity as the one who was wronged. It means the trauma was an unholy interpretation, not a definition of me.
But death is required for the resurrection of true peace.
And that takes immense humility.
It does, which is defined here as the willingness to be happy rather than to be right. The ego would always rather be right in its misery.
The mind that aligns with truth would rather release the judgment and just be happy.
And the quality of mind that this choice creates is gentleness. You stop needing the world to verify your judgment.
You stop needing external proof that you were wronged or that you're morally superior.
You just walk through your day actively looking for that spark of God, the light, the sinlessness in every single person you meet.
And you're not doing it for them.
No, you're doing it because the choice to see sinlessness in others is the only choice that reveals it in yourself at the same time.
And that is the incredible promise in those final lines of the lesson. In him, I find myself.
We're always looking for the truth of who we are. But the workbook consistently teaches that you can only find your true self, your own sinlessness, by looking at your brother first and finding it in him.
The mirror of perception only works one way. You extend holiness outward.
And you receive it back as your own identity.
So, to summarize this whole exploration, today was really about taking back the power of perception. The core message is that you are not a passive victim of what you see. You are the proactive author of how you interpret it.
And it's so important to stress, this is not a teaching about spiritual bypassing. It's not asking you to become a doormat or to ignore harmful behavior.
Right. You can and should set clear, loving boundaries.
Absolutely. It just means you can set a boundary with the behavior, the form, while refusing to let that behavior define the ultimate sinless reality, the content of the person in front of you.
You choose to see the truth God created, which is their sinlessness, not the error the ego made, which is the sin.
And that choice is where true, lasting, self-generated peace is found.
So as a practice for today, for anyone listening, when you feel that familiar hot spike of immediate judgment,
Whether it's from an online comment, someone in traffic, a situation at home,
just pause. Immediately, before you assign that default guilty story.
try shifting your internal thermostat. Just say to yourself, I can choose to see this differently.
I choose to see my brother's sinlessness.
And just observe what happens inside of you when you make that deliberate choice.
Notice how quickly the anxiety or the tension just dissolves when the need to be right is dropped in favor of peace.
Thank you for engaging in this difficult but ultimately so liberating work with us.
We look forward to continuing this journey with you tomorrow.